Headline news most affecting Abbotsford this week. The Abbotsford Police Department released video footage of a gang smashing cars. A man known to police is once again charged with public indecency. Preparing for the worst with wildfires. And Ledgeview welcomes the PGA Canada Tour. Our guest this week is Dr. Tim Cooper, Professor Emeritus at the University of the Fraser Valley, here to discuss something topical, heat domes. And we're privileged to welcome Steve Croner to helm the sports desk this week. Oh, and then there's also me. I know, I'm as disappointed as you are. Don's away with a bug, so, chill, let's have some fun. All right, Abbotsford, let's get started. abbyPD have released a video of cars being smashed on a targeted incident on Broadway. On April 29th, the video footage shows a large group of armed suspects arriving at 3 separate vehicles. The suspects are seen leaving their vehicles before using a variety of weapons, including axes, swords, and baseball bats to smash windows and otherwise destroy property. If you have any information on this, you are asked to contact Abbotsford Police. On May 3rd, abbyPD responded to Elwood Park in the 31,400 block of McClure Road for a reported indecent act in progress. Abbotsford Police investigated a similar complaint in April at Elwood Park, but it is not known if the two cases are related. A female caller reported that the man had been exposing himself to individuals in the park. Officers were immediately dispatched. 56-year-old Richard Renning of Abbotsford has been charged with committing an indecent act in a public place. Renning remains in custody pending his next court appearance. And after the break, things are about to get a bit warm. BC Wildfire Service is concerned about the heat wave that has enveloped us this week. In a tweet, BC Wildfires' Matt McDonald called it a heat dome and compared this to the heat dome in the summer of 2021. As of the recording of this program, Environment Canada has not issued an extreme heat warning, although the City of Abbotsford has told News of the Week that they are monitoring the situation. We will have 30-degree temperatures for the next few days, which is unseasonably high for this time of the year. BC Parks took to social media confirming what many people were concerned about. Don't expect access to Coquihalla Canyon Park and Othello tunnels anytime soon. BC Parks says the cleanup after the November 2021 atmospheric river is not complete, and the damage was so significant that access to the park and tunnels will not happen in 2023 at all. And to add to all of this, the likelihood of an El Nino developing later this year is increasing according to a May 3rd update from the World Meteorological Organization. In fact, they predict the effects of an El Nino will start sometime between May and July for our part of the world. UFE Professor Emeritus Dr. Tim Cooper will join us in a few minutes to talk about weather events versus climate change. Abbotsford artistic community is getting back to its cultural roots for Aboriginal Arts and Culture Day on Sunday, June 11th at the Trethway House Heritage Site. This is a free family event that offers community members a chance to immerse themselves in Indigenous art, culture, history, and traditions. The event will also feature solo storytellers. And after the break, our interview with Dr. Tim Cooper, followed by sports with Steve Croner. Well, welcome back, and our audience is in for a treat right now. I'd like to welcome Dr. Tim Cooper to the show. Dr. Tim Cooper is a frequent visitor at Chill TV, and he's here today to talk to us about, what the heck's going on with the weather right now? It's hot. What's happening?
Well, Berris, I've never been called a treat before, so thank you for that. That's new to me. It's hot, and it's going to get hotter. According to my cell phone forecast, it's going to be 34 degrees in Sunday and Monday.
Good Lord.
This next week.
Happy Mother's Day.
Here in Chilliwack. It's just a hot bunch of weather. It's not necessarily indicative of climate change, but climate change is a long-term statistical average. So if we end up with a lot of issues that look like this in a row, that's one of the consequences of climate change.
Well, because
one-timer is just weather.
Because I've heard that before. Because sometimes, you get some cold days, and you get, let's say, a group of people saying, "Well, clearly there's no climate change happening." So what you're saying is that doesn't count?
Not really. Climate is the long-term average of the weather. And weather is just what it is today and here. So climate is spread over a large area, spread over a longer time.
But having said that, said that, we get this heat dome, which I've never even heard of before, 2 years ago, and in the summer, and it fried up a good part of southern BC. And then, a little over 18 months later, we're in a heat dome in May. Is that possible?
Yeah. The phrase that's used is that the dice, when you throw them, determine the weather. It's just a question of luck.
Right.
But climate change loads the dice. So you get certain weather patterns coming up more frequently. That's one way of looking at it. So hot in the summertime is going to occur more and more often as time goes on, and has been occurring more often.
Well, yeah.
So along with the hot, therefore goes the dry and many other conditions of dryness, such as drought and fire.
Yeah. Well, and to having so much heat so early, like I've noticed the Vedder River is starting to get quite high, so danger of flooding, and I think we're all concerned about that. Now, for those of us that aren't aware, and I don't believe what we're experiencing right now has officially been called a heat dome, although there's that speculation. I guess what I'm wondering is, what exactly is a heat dome as opposed to a heat wave?
Okay, to be honest, I had to look this one up just before coming here today. So I am interested in climate, not too knowledgeable on weather, but I can say when it's a heat dome, it forms when there's air that's high up and is sinking, just continues to sink. The weather patterns have brought this downward sinking mass of air. Down below it, because the air's going down, it's warming up, and so you don't get condensation, and so clouds don't form. So the sun shines straight through it to the ground, makes the ground really hot, and that hot ground heats the air, which tries to rise up, but it's blocked by the air coming down. And so it goes up and it gets stuck into a dome shape, which is why we call it a heat dome. And the longer that weather condition stays, which is where the downward sinking air traps the heat, the hotter it's going to get. That's what happened to Lytton.
So then, I mean, this just sounds like it just would keep getting worse and worse and worse. I guess only ends when there's some other major weather pattern that knocks it out?
That's correct, yeah.
Wow, okay.
So, climate change says that these things will occur more frequently, but they can't tell you when, which year, which month it will happen.
Well, you see when we first moved to Chilliwack, I don't even remember all those smoke events happening, and now it's basically every summer that's something that's normal.
It has increased in frequency. I've been here for 30 years. I don't remember smoke in the valley for the first 15 of them.
Yeah. And
then there was a little bit of smoke every so often, and now it's every year. Yeah. So that's the frequency of event is increasing. That's indicative of climate change. So
very concerning.
There's an interesting thing as well that's happening. If you, I'm reluctant to make predictions because I know exactly what's going to happen as soon as I do. But there's two things happening which do affect the climate and do affect the weather. One of them is the El Nino-La Nina cycle. La Nina is where you have cold upwelling of water in the Pacific. That cold water takes heat from the air, sucks heat from the air, and the global temperature is lower. It's been stuck for about 5 or 6 years in this mode. It's finally switching to an El Nino. And when that happens, the warm water in the Pacific will start to upwell, and we'll have warm water which will give off heat to the air. So the heat always flows from whatever's hot to whatever's cold. So for 6 years, we've been storing heat in the Pacific Ocean.
Oh dear.
Cooling us down. Now it's about to reverse, and all that heat's going to be coming back out. And the El Nino event should occur a little bit starting towards the end of July, but it will become definitely noticeable in September, and even more so next year.
Well, and we reported on it earlier in the show, potentially starting as early as May. May to July is, yeah.
The tricky part is, when do you say it's starting? Is it starting when it's halfway up, or starting at the beginning?
Well, it's easier to look back and say that's when it started.
Of course, yeah. It will go for quite some time. 2023, because of this, is likely to be the hottest year on record.
Oh, my goodness.
Worldwide, not necessarily in Chilliwack. And 2024, it should be even stronger, because it's really the tail end of 2023 that's coming in. There's another interesting cycle going on called the sunspot cycle, which most people don't pay attention to. But the sun has an 11-year sunspot cycle. When you get a lot of sunspots on the sun, it's hot. It gives off a lot of heat. When you have a very few, it's much colder. We're just coming to the peak of the sunspot cycle this summer. So you've got this 11-year cycle giving us most powerful sun, giving us an El Nino starting, and also, of course, the carbon dioxide buildup in the air is giving us an overall temperature increase from that. So it's a triple whammy coming together for this summer and especially next one.
Well, that is so complex, Dr. Cooper. I know one thing for sure. I'm going to have the air conditioning working all weekend long.
Well, if I could suggest something, that does give me an idea to mention to your listeners. If you don't have AC in your house and you'd like to get something to cool your house, if you buy an AC unit, it'll cost you $5,000 to $7,000 depending on the size. But if you buy a heat pump, which gives you air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter, it might end up cheaper. There's a $13,000 grant that you can get from various levels of government. Actually, there's 3 grants that add to $13,000. And getting the heat pump installed is cheaper than getting an air conditioner installed. Also, during the winter, when you're using the heat pump, you won't be burning natural gas, so that your carbon dioxide footprint will go down, which means a lot to someone like me. So if you could do that, that would be great. I do have a couple of horror stories, though, people I know that have gone to a contractor who's then said, well, if you have the heat pump, you need to have a backup gas furnace. Otherwise, when it gets too cold, we need to turn the heat pump off and use the gas furnace. That was true 11 years ago. It's not true today. The technology has changed dramatically with heat pumps. Now they're good down to minus 15, the cheap ones. If you really want to get an expensive one, you can go down to minus 30. We don't need that in Chilliwack. So you can get a cheap heat pump good to minus 15, and the government will pay almost all of it. It's your best bet. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that advice. And $13,000 in rebates? That's right. That's considerable. Just out of curiosity, on average, how much is an actual heat pump to be installed?
Depends on the size of the property.
Yeah.
For, say, a townhouse or a semi-detached house,
yeah.
About $13,000 to $14,000 total install cost. For a full-sized house, standalone, probably about $16,000 or $17,000.
So most of the cost the government bears then? Is that the case?
That's right. As long as you've installed with the correct installer, as long as he's installed a heat pump which fits the government program and he removes the gas furnace. That's an important step.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very, very good advice. Dr. Cooper, thank you so much for being on the show. You're a frequent contributor. We love having you on, and we invite you back anytime. And we're working on a new show called Science is Golden with Dr. Cooper, and so stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. Thank you again for being on the show, and we're back with News of the Week.
My pleasure.
If you're looking for flat greens and an easy boring layout, Ledgeview is not for you. It may only measure just over 6,100 yards on the scorecard from the tips, but it may very well be the most challenging and exciting 6,100 yards you'll ever play. This is one of the reasons why the challenging course will play host to a qualifier for the 2023 Canadian Open. The qualifier is Friday, May 12th. Go to the course website for ticket information. Wait till next year. Last Friday, the Calgary Wrangles beat the Abbotsford Canucks 3-2, eliminating Abbotsford from the 2023 Calder Cup playoffs. They won the series 3-1. The Canucks are now in the midst of a season ticket push for next year. UFV Cascades men baseball team are back at it this week with a home game against Okanagan College as we speak at Fairfield Park, and then finish the season with a Saturday doubleheader against Thompson Rivers in Kamloops. Mission Raceway has Friday night MOPAC Street Legals this week at the track. The NHRA Summit Series is back next weekend. Last Saturday, Trinity Western University's women's rugby seven-side played Paraguay's national seven-side 3 times in a short 90-minute exhibition series, with the Spartans falling 26-5, 15-10, and 25-5. The Spartans, who arrived in Paraguay on April 29th, are on a 2-week service trip in Paraguay in partnership with Team Up and De Por Vida Paraguay. And after the break, Cari with the weather.
Steve Croner with the sports. That was fantastic, Steve. Thank you so much. And Cari, what up? How do you think I'm doing? Huh? Not bad for today. And oh, by the way, it's a little hot. Who put you in charge of the weather? Hmm?
Well, Berris, I have decided to reboot spring and skip right to summer. These temperatures are going to be nasty next week. It's going to be hot, hot, hot. 32 is the high, but we still get down to about 13 at night. It's almost like we went from being moist from the rain to being moist from the heat. Thank God I'm going to have a big pamper session over the weekend with Mother's Day. Back to you, Berris.
Thanks, Cari. Thanks for the lovely weather. And thanks for watching. If you have a local news story you'd like us to report on, send us a note to news@chilltv.ca. Let's hope Dawn's back next week because, frankly, I'm exhausted. And it isn't the heat. Get well soon, my friend. Also, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there and to everyone else. Don't forget, get some flowers, chocolate, brunch. It's your mom. Thanks and have a great weekend. I'm Berris Karden.